Welcome to the ATG podcast. This is the first of our special 20-minute summer numbers edition. I'm your co-host, ankles behind knees guy.
King Smith, I got nothing.
So here's what we're trying to do. We're trying to take one topic at a time with 20-minute sessions, meaning 20-minute podcasts. We'll do multiple a week. So we're starting with ankles. Then the next one, Thursday, we'll do knees. Then the next week, hips, spine, shoulders, elbows, wrists. Then we can start getting into neck, and we can even get into the speed numbers, the jump numbers, the agility number, So all we're going to break down in this one is numbers that we have seen relate to ankles, and we'll break that down. I'll start with one that I feel very strongly about, which is 20% of body weight for 20 reps on the tibialis bar. Now, I know it seems like you've recently built up to that, and you were just telling me the other day how you were feeling different athletically. And, I feel like that's a foundational step. What do you think about that number? Let's break that one down.
Yeah, I think the tibialis bar is like such a big, simple breakthrough. Like almost everyone can smash that exercise, like go as hard as they want. And, the risk is so low, and generally people start fairly weak, depending on, like, if you're a dunker, then maybe not. But I think people, generally I would say people will be quite a ways off the target, and then you can really hit it hard. You can get big improvement. And it's one of those ones where you're going to notice that extra stability and that extra just desire to be powerful. It's probably one of my favorite numbers for that reason. Like you can just train it so much, it can improve so much, and people just give that feedback of feeling better in anything explosive.
Yeah, and you brought up a good point, which is that I recall back to when I was trying to train my legs, and because of my super bad knees, like I really couldn't find anything, quote unquote, that I could like do and actually train hard. But then I could train my upper body hard, right? So like you're going to get what you are asking for. So like if you're training your upper body hard, but you can't really get a pump in your legs, you're too stiff to get into movement. So that's so cool about the tibialis bar is you can just start right from there. Like you said, I've never trained anyone who couldn't get a 10 out of 10 burn on that bar. And you're working the other side of your ankle mobility. So it's kind of ridiculous how many of us for years have been trying all kinds of ankle mobility drills, but never bothering to actually strength train the front of our ankle. Now, before I forget, this is not an ad for the tibialis bar. 20% of body weight on the tibialis bar for 20 reps. If you don't have a tibialis bar, you can use pretty much anything to strap up a dumbbell. I used to use a floss band because it would just create like a really nice strong grip on the foot so that the dumbbell wouldn't move. In that case, a single dumbbell, I found same difficulty at 12.5% of body weight, because it's kind of a different leverage than the tibialis bar, plus the tibialis bar has a little weight. So for myself and coaching hundreds in person, thousands online, 20% tibialis bar, or essentially 25%, 12.5% per leg on a dumbbell. So anyone can do this. When you came to ATG last year, we didn't even have the tibialis bar, but we did have a tibialis machine, and we would strap up those dumbbells all the time. And we have the wall version. So you've been training them, on and off for maybe a couple of years, but how long have you been lifting weights?
Yeah, there's definitely a huge deficit there. Like I was hitting that machine hard at your gym. I personally, I do think the tib bar is just a massive breakthrough with the strength curve of the exercise. People have figured out makeshift ways to do it. And, there's stuff on YouTube. Like we're not going to discriminate against people who, can't afford the actual device, but, it's cool to all have the same numbers and whatnot. But as one simple investment for people who are dealing with like shin splints or knee issues, it's a really, it's a small investment relative to what you pay for a lot of machines, setting up home gyms and whatnot. And it's something that also gives you a signature. If you're a coach, obviously, you can use it with clients and have a point of difference. But even if you're having your buddies around and whatnot, like it gives you something that stands apart, which I think is valuable as well. But I
just bought 6 for my old college coach.
So cool.
So there's a variance there. If you're in high school and you're working jobs on the weekend just to help your mom pay the bills, right? hop on YouTube and you'll find tutorials on how you can get like PVC pipes and stuff like that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But look at do you have any idea how much sports teams spend on their bodies and their equipment? So like in that case, we're talking about you could buy a fleet of these for your team and it would still cost less than a single lat pull down machine.
Yeah, for sure. A lot less. And yeah, I love it. I think that, yeah, you're going to clear, the single leg ability to go single leg as well. If you've had, say, an ankle injury, then
Yep.
you can strap on that side and you can, pull out your specific weakness and check your left versus your right, which is also,
Yep.
something that's valuable.
Yeah. So
With your
that's another interesting way of that's another really interesting way of looking at it. Take your $10 floss band or whatever resistance band, tie a dumbbell to your foot, and build up that way one side at a time. Create balance between sides, then progress to the bar, to the tibialis bar, and now really jack it up. Plus, when you do the body weight version against the wall, even though you're lifting your weight, that's still kind of creating some balance as well. Like you're working both sides. I think there's some independence going on there. So start with the wall. You need literally nothing. You could actually listen to this. Imagine if you listened to this 20-minute podcast and you tried to do as many tibialis raises against the wall as you could. You'd get the best tibialis workout in the world. And again, we're catching up. Anyone who's listening to this, there's a higher probability that you genetically suck as an athlete. That's why so many of us get into training. Now, there's also a high probability, if you're dedicated enough and crazy enough to be listening to this podcast with us two crazies, you've probably trained really hard for a really long time. So if you look at your ankle and those first muscles all the way up the shin there, compared to your training history and your genetics, you probably can't do 20% of body weight for 20 reps on the tibialis bar. But the freak athletes can, and you could if you trained for it. So for me, I trained so hard to wind up with shin splints and knee pain. But if you look at what I did, and if you just look at this from a physics perspective, I asked the universe for problematic ankles, shins, and knees. That's what I asked for based on the exact stimulus I put into my body. So yeah, get your hips as powerful as you possibly can, but not on top of weak knees and not world-class knees on top of weak ankles. So the last thing I'll say on that one is that if you're coming off major ankle injury, check out I have a free ankle, a full ankle sprain formula on YouTube, because it's not like an ankle sprain is not part of my system, but it's something that someone might need to handle to get into the system. When you strap up a dumbbell, you can actually get into circles with the ankle. So it's like it's almost like if you would say how people do calf raises, like with the toes out or in or whatever. I haven't really found that needed on a calf raise, but for an ankle sprain on the tibialis, that can be very important. And I don't recommend going as heavy. You might have to start with a pound, but the year that I came up with that, I counted 12 different cases of people who were able to cancel ankle surgeries based on that exercise. And they had tried everything. Well, they hadn't tried strengthening their fucking ankle. No one had. So 12 cases we saw doing that. We saw a world record breaker in the decathlete doing it. I think his name's Kevin Mayer. Look at the lower legs on that guy. Holy crap. Anyways, now let's go to the backside before we run out of too much time. Let's go into the calves.
100%. So wherever the biggest weakness is here is where someone's going to get the biggest gain. So that tibialis is likely to be a big weakness. The other one that we do see pop up is that people haven't really developed the soleus very much. They've done some standing calf raises, but they're weak down the bottom. And that's been a recent addition to the program that you've kind of brought in, and it's now inside the dense program. And I think that 25% per thigh for 25% of body weight resting on the knee, on the thigh for 50 reps on the slant is a really nice and valuable number.
Great foundation. Great foundation. This is a cool case where a number is something you actually probably could do, but it'll force you to work really hard. So we probably almost all can do 50 reps seated on a bench, feet on a slant board, doing calf raises to target the soleus while getting a really nice big toe, workout at the top as well.
Plantar fascia.
Yeah, plantar fascia. So you put 25% of body weight each thigh. A kettlebell's probably the most comfortable. Dumbbell works too, depending on the brand. And you do 50 reps. Now, if you have me there coaching you, I'll probably drive anyone listening to this to 50 reps. On your own, know that you probably can do it, but your 3 sets of 50 there is going to create some real work for that soleus, which I don't know about for you, but for me, I definitely went at least 10 years of training very hard without ever actually like feeling like a soleus workout. And the soleus is the lower, deeper calf muscle that has the strongest pull of any muscle in the human body, pound for pound. This is a game-changing muscle for athleticism. It's also the muscle that has been found to most protect your Achilles. And when you gut knees over toes in a calf raise, you're able to really target this. In zero, we have the KOT calf raise. 25 reps, single-legged creates a nice number, for body weight. But I feel like with both of those, I feel like it's something we can push through. Whereas with the tibialis, it's more like with the tibialis bar, for example, like I've coached a lot of people on that now. And at 20%, unless someone's trained it or is a freak jumper, they probably will fail. I mean, if a gun was to their head, they would not be able to do 20 reps. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas with the soleus, with the KOT calf raise, 25 reps single leg, or with the slant board seated calf raise, 50 reps, 25% body weight each thigh. If a gun was to your head, you probably could do it, and you just cause some wonderful adaptation. Two areas covered pretty well so far. Tibialis, soleus, 2 areas that I was never made to train. And I went to, I had at least a dozen different trainers between sports teams and personal hire. No one ever made me train tibialis and soleus. And sure as heck, not with a measurable target. If anything, it was like a little TheraBand or something, but no measurable target. But I sure as heck had measurable target. The things I did have measurable targets on that I could train without pain, I improved on, I hit, it's not that impressive, but I hit 245 on incline bench for reps at one point, but I couldn't grab the rim, and I was trying to be a basketball player. So I've always gotten better at the things that I measure.
Big numbers
if
for
I
basketball.
Can measure it, exactly. If I can measure it and I can train it without pain, I've always gotten better on it. And so the ankles are no different.
I think that's a key message for people listening in here. That's why we're so big on these numbers, is because they will drive you to train better. They will help you to gamify your training and be excited for your next session and get those sets done and just be better than you would be if you don't have clear targets. And athletes will often say this, like, I just didn't know what I needed to be good at. And maybe people have heard of some of these exercises. Like people will often say like, oh yeah, I've seen the ATG stuff and I've done bits of it over the years. But that is so different to having these clear targets and actually going after the numbers without bias. That's the new thing that you've kind of put forward there in the ATG Pulse, like the numbers without bias. This is numbers without bias. Like the tibialis matters, the posterior, tibialis matters as well. Like the soleus matters. Like these numbers and these muscles really do matter. And to say that they don't because there's no double blind, studies and research and other coaches aren't talking about them. Like, how can you say a muscle doesn't matter? Why is it there if it doesn't matter?
We're just ahead of the game. Someone has to be ahead of the game. The university can only study what's already there. The best, candle makers in the world didn't come up with the electric light, So, it's a great quote. The breakthroughs happen from outside, from the fringe. They happen, work. ATG is on the fringe making the breakthroughs that anyone could do any infinite number of tests on a tibialis strengthening or soleus strengthening now. You know what I mean? That could be tested 100 different ways. Like, who cares? To me, truth is simple, in my personal opinion. The, academia and making that an exclusive and can't think for yourself kind of thing has actually only taken us backwards, not forward. So for my intents and purposes, I would prefer, not being involved in academia, but we're laying out things for academia to go take forth. You know what I mean? We're almost done with our time. I think we have a few more minutes, maybe 5 more minutes.
Yep.
Then if we move up to kind of finish off the ankle, there's still just a straight legged, ankle strength. Single legged calf raise, 25% body weight, strict. So, no holding on to something for balance, only knuckles against a flat surface. I guess you could go palm against a flat surface, but basically you're not getting assistance from the offside. You're not bending the knee, straight leg strength. 25% body weight for 10 reps. A lot of people actually will fail to do strictly. I couldn't do that with body weight at first, again, because I just wasn't in a system. I was taught, that it's like that calves are only like 5% of vertical jump. And maybe that's true for a standing vertical, but for basketball and for life and longevity, like standing vertical is one component of expressing power, but standing vertical is not elasticity. For elasticity, the guys I've trained destroy 25% for 10 reps. It's like, no wonder they jump higher with the running start. Connor Barth we had to figure out ways to load him enough because his single leg calf raise was so strong. We would use a barbell on his back, and you're thinking, how do you balance? You set your step by a wall, and the bumper plates roll up and down the wall. Does that make sense? So he was doing half body weight for 10 strict reps. And meanwhile, guys with good standing verticals who could barely jump any higher with the running start, and they couldn't do, 25% of body weight for 10 strict reps.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that, there's so much clarity in just those three numbers, and understanding that philosophy of wherever you're weakest amongst those is where you're going to get the biggest gains. And it doesn't matter how much you can squat, bench, deadlift. If you want to be athletic and you're not experiencing anything, if you're having issues or if you're not close to those numbers, then you are leaving athleticism behind. Like, these numbers may be much more important to you than,
and potentially major chronic foot pains and shin split. I gave up on the idea of dunking off a one-legged jump, and I thought, well, I'm just a 2-foot jumper. I'll never be able to dunk off 1 foot because my shin splints were so bad. I couldn't go try to jump off 1 foot. My heel would start hurting, or plantar fasciitis, but again, I just hadn't actually put the work into that. So to clarify and recap for people, we're talking about 3 zones of strength: tibialis, soleus, gastroc, in terms of just general areas. Those break down actually to like dozens of little muscles and tendons and all kinds of stuff. So with the tibialis bar, and when you do that exercise, you're able to train short and long range, believe it or not, at the same time. Like, it gives an unmistakable stretch at the bottom. For people who've had chronic ankle sprains, that tibialis bar is the best damn investment you could make, because if you don't get strong in that deep range, that ankle will often just stay stiff and stay with that weak feeling. But then when you go to the top, like, it's very hard to hold at the top too. So the nature of it kind of works both ranges. With the calf, though, you really do have 2 different calf muscles, soleus versus gastroc. And when we bend the knee, we're able to get into that.
I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
Babe, don't come near the car. It's messing up my podcast.
the Bluetooth.
Her phone.
Yeah,
technology's too. Technology's. Farther. Hang up.
It's like every week there's a little bit of comedy value in something that goes.
Somehow got a little something each time. But Lucky's being a good boy. He's just been here. He's soaking it in.
Yeah.
All right.
He knows it.
So that was kind of my recap. Is have 3 zones. If you don't have any problems in your life, maybe add these just as longevity. I'm really passionate about it because I actually had to give up on certain goals only to find that I didn't have to give up. And now I'm looking forward over the next 10 years. Like, I could become a world-class 1-foot jumper. And yet only a few years ago, prior to training these things, I literally believed I would never dunk off 1 foot. Now I can't wait to. Now it's like, I don't even know how to give myself shin splints. So that's my recap. Is everyone should train these things from a longevity purpose, side of things. For certain people, this can actually change your life. It can make a career possible. It can make playing with your kids possible. There's a lot of people suffering from these lower issues. And no, there has never been a measurable, pain-free, everything we've described scales to pain-free levels, way of training these. And if you can train something without pain, with measurable progression, you can improve it.
Love it. Yeah, this this was such a big issue for me as well. I had an ankle surgery and the shin splints kind of issues like yourself, bone irritation. And it was a real pain to stop me from training the way I wanted to. And there's so many people out there going through this. So, I know that these numbers can really help. I would just like to mention maybe that there are some other pieces that do add a lot of value to the ankle within the ATG system. So these are like our foundation numbers and they're great. I also see huge value in the natural knee extension or the reverse Nordic in terms of maxing out the dorsiflexion range. I think that adds a lot. And then the step ups add so much. Even the J curl on the slant board, the fascial aspect of that. So there's other little pieces that will add a lot more value beyond these basic strength numbers.
Even the ATG split squat, the Peterson step up.
Yeah, the split squat is a massive one as well, which really should have.
Those are all the things that people say, "Oh, I can't do that." But everything we described in this process is in this edition of this ankle podcast is how you actually could do that. So we described the foundations.
Exactly.
Anything else we've mentioned, we will cover as we keep going up the chain into these, further movements. So
yeah.
Thanks for listening, Keegan. Great work. I'm super excited Thursday for the knee edition.
Yep. Amazing.
Right.
And that'll bring in the crossover between those. So thanks for today and looking forward to hearing the feedback on this one.
Awesome. We're out.